Historically Black Sense is the, and I mean the premier digital platform geared towards HBCUs and all things Black Greek letter organizations. All right, man. Today we have a special guest who needs no introduction at all. If you ask me, he don't need no introduction. You know, he's a legend in his own right to me. None other than rapper, producer, actor, social activist, Mr. David Banner. How you doing, sir?
I appreciate it, man. I appreciate it, man. Love, love, love. Thank you.
Hey, thank you for coming on first and foremost. I know you're a busy man. You got a lot going on, but taking the time out of your day to come speak to, little old me in big old historically Black sense.
Now, first of all, it ain't no little old me, brother. You're God in your own sense, man. And the universe only hear what you tell it, bro. You are a giant, bro, and I'm honored to be here with you. We reflect.
Hey, I appreciate it.
Because if you wasn't on your job, then you wouldn't be talking to me.
That's real. I appreciate that.
Nor would I be talking to you. Let's go.
Let's get it. I'm gonna get right into it. HBCUs, Southern University alum. And anytime that I do an interview, I always start off asking, did an HBCU choose you, or did you choose an HBCU? Or more specifically, did Southern choose you, or did you choose Southern? How did it come about, you and Southern University?
First of all, I was also former SGA president.
And I was gonna get to that. I did my research.
I'm gonna let you do your job. I definitely chose Southern. I had an option. It was crazy because I had a type of mother who she told me only pick one college. She said, don't pick two colleges. Pick one college, and you getting in that college. I'm going to make sure you get in that college. And so I had a choice what colleges I wanted to go to. And funny enough, all I ever wanted to do was rap. I've been rapping since I was in the 6th grade. That's what a lot of people don't know. And I saw this video that was shot by this group that was called Ho Frat Ho. The video was off the chain on BET. When I tell you, they had all the frats out, all the ladies, and if you've ever experienced Southern, which is a great educational institution within itself, I've been all over the world, and I haven't seen, at least during that time in history, I've never seen that many beautiful women in one place. Mm-hmm. Maybe you could say Atlanta as a city. Maybe you could say LA as a city. Maybe you could say New York as a city. Maybe you could say Paris as a city. Milan as a city. But I mean, an institution that's a microcosm of a larger city. I've never seen as many beautiful women to this day as I've seen at Southern. So with me wanting to be a rapper, my mom wouldn't let me go to school in state, which was actually a really good decision because I don't know if I'd still be living if I would have went to Jackson State. I just told a young lady that one good thing about going to college is you're able to choose your environment. Your environment doesn't choose you. So if there's something about your life or the way that you want to become or a certain person you want to become, some Black people call it fate. But if you don't like who you are and who you are right now isn't moving you forward as an individual, then you need to change you. For some reason, people want to keep you in a position a lot of times because they're not willing to move. So I definitely pick Southern.
That's interesting. That's kind of what sparked that question, because I know you are Jackson. You're a native of Jackson, Mississippi. And you have Southern, you have Jackson State, and shout out to both of them. Shout out to, I actually have a great friend of mine who's from Jackson as well, and he speaks highly of Jackson. But it's Jackson or nothing dealing with him. And so I know it's Jackson State. You have Southern and so many different prestigious HBCUs out there. And a lot of people don't know. It's like they'll see David Banner the rapper, and I'm only speaking on kind of what I saw first when I was a little young and watching BET and all of that. I'm seeing David Banner as the rapper, but I never would have thought that, hey, David Banner, he went to an HBCU just like me. And that's kind of what gave this platform, because a lot of people don't know and they need to go beyond what they see on television and to get in depth. So I really want to know what made you choose that, and what, hey, and the pretty ladies there are definitely a plus.
Well, what I'll say is, one of the things that I believe that we have to do is, America is only going to show us the aspects of ourselves that we want to see. And that's the sad part. Like, as much as people say, well, I didn't know you did this, well, you didn't research. We as a people have to stop taking what a group of people who have historically never wanted to see anything but us, acting crazy and slutty and all those types of things. They're not going to feed us more. So there's always been more David Banner. People who are from that part of the region, they've always known. And even in my worst days, I was revolutionary. Even when I was doing stuff that I didn't want to, or not necessarily didn't want to do, because whether you want to do it or not, you make a choice. But I've always pushed for the people. I've always pushed education. I forget who was that told me that. Young Guru, who works with Jay-Z. He said I was one of the first people who talked about their street life, but was never embarrassed about my intellect. Never embarrassed about how smart I am. Never embarrassed about how much I read. I actually don't understand how you can say you're a rapper, but you don't know no words. I say you're a producer and you proud to not know how to play any instrument. You don't know how to do nothing. And that makes them kids think just because you can do it, that's the way to go. But no, I want to know as many words as I possibly can in all languages if I can. You are a slave to what you don't know.
That is true. Education is definitely the key. And like you stated, man, a lot of people, how can you say you're a rapper and don't know words? I totally get it. I'm laughing, but I'm laughing because it's the honest truth. And that's what separates a lot of, any profession that you're in. That's what separates one individual from another, because of the education level, of the dedication to research, of the dedication to wanting, and the thirst to wanting to learn more, the thirst for knowledge. So I totally get that.
But what I would say, I am proud of those who took what they had and did the best with what they had. Took the words they did understand, because one of the other things is that those of us who know we have to do better, we're going back and taking that information and not just running off and just holding that information for ourselves. So in any way, it's no criticism on any rapper. Like, do what you do the best that you can do. The only thing that I would ask from you is just don't make our kids think that's the only way to do it. Like, a smart rapper shouldn't make a rapper that's not as smart as him feel like that's the only way that you can rap is be smart rap. Everybody don't want to hear smart rap. But the thing is, I just want you to be intelligent in whatever you do, because if you're not intelligent, then how you going to read those contracts? If you're not intelligent, how you going to navigate yourself through the world? Is it going to get to the point where you're always going to need another person or a phone for you to be free on this planet? You know what I'm saying? How would I say?
And it makes 100% sense. I mean, it makes a lot of sense. I totally get that. Let me move right along real quick for the sake of time. SGA President, and which you already you stated previously when we started. Now, how does David Banner become I get it. College is one thing. How does David Banner become the SGA President of Southern University?
Same way that I got into Katrina, the same way I got into helping to fight for Emmett Till's, death, even before I was born, Mike Brown. I have a tendency to want to see justice. I have a tendency of not, wanting to see other people being taken advantage of. The only problem that I have is I have to do a better job with taking care of myself. I'll give you an example. And nobody asked me to do this. When I was SGA president, I worked every day 8 hours in the SGA office for the most part. I'll say around 8 hours. Except one day when the young ladies that worked in there wouldn't let me work. They was like, go home. I didn't when that was bestowed upon me, I didn't even look for jobs or interns. From the point that they elected me SGA president, I worked until that was not my title anymore. But the problem is that, you know, if you look at other groups of people, they take care of their presidents. They take care of leaders. I don't think that our people are used to having good people. They're used to people that's taking from them. So the people who really do the real work, they end up being broke and lonely because they put the people first, and the people don't know how to then turn around and give back. And I'm now seeing that in every aspect of my life. You know, we set up and counted, man, up to like $12 million I missed because of my social activism. Money that I got where I put the people first, and the people could have put me, you know, the people could have then turned around and be like, well, damn, David Bamber's down for the hood. Let's make sure that we push him. Let's make sure that we buy 2 of his albums, 3 or 4 or 5 of his albums. Let's make sure. But what people would do is just, well, he'll be all right. Let's wait till he get hot again. And then seem to forget, you know, but I'm not going to do that no more. Like, from this point, I'm putting me first. I'm putting my mask on. And I would suggest that everybody else out there do too, you know, until we had a social competency to take care of each other. Because think about it, bro. Think about this. This is going to blow your mind. If just the people who went to Southern, and at the time it was 10,000 people on Southern campus, imagine if all of those people followed me. Imagine those people bought everything that I did, okay? Everybody that I helped during Katrina. Think about that. All the scholarships that I've given to people through time. And I'm not saying that I did any of these things for somebody to help me back, but I'm just saying, think about it. That's over at the least 50, all the children that I've sent on trips and done things for. What if all of those people went to davidbanner.com right now and bought 1 t-shirt? Imagine if all of those people, we're setting up a metaverse right now. What if everybody in there signed up for the metaverse for a monthly subscription every month? I wouldn't have to worry about anything for the rest of my life. Imagine if people did Martin Luther King like that, his family like that. You know, imagine if everybody, you know, everybody who I've supported bought the God Box, which was a revolutionary album, and Charlemagne said may be one of the best rap albums ever. And then 7 months later, everybody talking about they woke. You know what I mean? we also, as educated people, are now going to have to start holding the everyday average person to task the same way we do the football players, the basketball players, and everybody else. We seem to hold rappers more more accountable for things that they can't afford to take care of than we do our elected officials.
There's I guess it's safe to say, even with all of that, leadership has always been in you, and change has always been in you. It's always been something that you wanted to do. So even before the world, when I say the world, just the world as we know it from a hip hop culture or a pop culture, so to speak, knew David Banner. Did David Banner want to use the music to have a voice to lead into other things? Because a lot of times people, they'll listen. It's like, oh yeah, a rapper said this, so I'm gonna listen now. Did you want to use that as your platform to get the knowledge across and to make people listen to what you had to say? Or was the music just something that you wanted to do regardless?
Well, I mean, that's really hard to say because we all go through periods of our life. And for me to sit up and tell you when I first started rapping, well, I guess so. I guess to a certain degree, because I always wanted to change the way that people looked at Mississippi.
Mm.
You know, it's well, I can honestly say I've helped change the way that people look at Mississippi. You know, I remember going to Jamaica one time, and the dude said the only thing we know about Mississippi is David Banner and Mississippi Burning. So that let me know that, you know, I helped to change the perception of especially Southern black men. You know, the way that I held myself. You know, I didn't always get it right. But they knew that I stood for God, I stood for my people, and I stood for what's right. And I let them know that I was articulate. I didn't overtalk people or try to talk down on people, but I always wanted people to know that they wasn't talking to no damn fool. I've always been proud to know more, because to know means that you're freeing yourself. You are, again, a slave to everything that you don't know.
That is true. That's absolutely true. With all of that being said, the David Banner podcast. I want to switch gears for a minute.
Mhm.
Is that another platform that you started to get, I guess, to get your knowledge and everything, your cause, your knowledge, out to more of, I guess, a greater mass of people? Because, I mean, although it is a platform and that's why we do it, was that you could have a different mindset on even why you started that podcast.
Well, initially I did, but the truth is, I don't like being in anybody box.
Mm.
It got to the point where, you know how our people are. Like, you know, I started speaking up a lot because people needed it. You know what I'm saying? Not necessarily because that's what I wanted to do all the time. I know my intent when it comes to black people. I don't know other people's intent. I know how I feel about our people and what I'm willing to do. And if you would always notice, black people would get upset sometimes with me because I wouldn't jump out there as soon as stuff happened. Number one, the person that you're talking about may be wrong. You got to wait for a minute to see if the situation that you're fighting for is worth fighting for, and if you're fighting on the right side, right? I have a tendency, if black people are wrong, I just be quiet. You know what I'm saying? I just, you know, some people have a tendency of trying to crucify their people when America gonna do that. Don't know. We don't need no more help. They don't need no more help with crucifying us. But what I'm saying is that honestly, my podcast or our podcast was honestly just for us to be ourselves. Bro, I looked around and my DMs went from some of the finest women on this planet to mothers whose children were murdered.
Mm.
And like, although I've always wanted to help, it's not my responsibility to save everybody. And then, even if I chose to, how am I supposed to feed my family if I'm fighting against injustice and I'm not selling no records and y'all not buying none? If I'm not doing no movie auditions, people don't look at it like that. I actually think most people don't care. Like, how do you think we eat?
Yeah.
And if you want me to help you, and America has whipped us into this slave mentality. Like, people will sit up and suck up your information on Instagram all day. And you know, I get paid a lot, man. Between me and you, bro, I get paid more, and this is not capping, but just being honest. I get paid to speak more than most rappers get paid to perform.
Mm.
And you know, my friend told me one time, man, you sit around on Instagram all day and give it away to black people for free, and most people don't respect anything that they get for free. So my podcast was just a way for me to be me. If we wanted to get on there, act a fool, we could act a fool. If we wanted to get knowledge, I just wanted people to have a place where they could feel like they could be themselves. Sometimes you go to a podcast and there's so much information, so much poignant information that you feel like you got to have a dictionary out in order to survive in that space. Sometimes it be so ratchet that you can't listen to it with your windows down. You know what I mean? I wanted the David Banner podcast to be that sweet spot where you don't know, like one of our most viewed podcast sections was with Anthony Broder, who wrote From the Broder Files.
Yeah.
Man, he kept so much knowledge on that, man. Yo, and then the second one was Monique. So whether you go from Monique to, if you go look, I can't say this for sure. I think we were the first podcast to put Benny the Butcher on.
Shout out to Benny the Butcher.
We may have the first Benny the Butcher freestyle on the podcast. So the podcast was just freedom, bro.
Dope. And that was, no matter what I thought, no matter what the people viewing this may have thought, that's why I wanted to ask personally, because I could have thought that you started it for one reason, but you may have had a totally different mindset on why you started it, and what you just told myself as well as the audience. So I think that's a very, very dope.
Let me tell you
freedom.
This.
I mean, that's a dope word to sum up the podcast. It's freedom. It's a free space.
Let me tell you something though, bro. Erykah Badu told me something one time though. You also have to be careful with that, bro, because are you making the podcast for you, or are you making the podcast for the listeners? Some people may take it one way and it may change their life. And if you tell them the real meaning of your podcast, then you take the closeness away from them. Sometimes you let it be whatever it's going to be, because if you notice, Martin Luther King's speech meant something to you when you was a child. It meant something different when you was in high school. And it should have meant something different, when you're in college, because of where you are in those spaces. So sometimes you have to be careful to not take away people's closeness with your words by allowing your ego to define something just so they can feel the way that you feel. My responsibility is to give the word, and then you got to work with God. And sometimes if I can get in the way of that by running my mouth.
You know what? That was everything you said made perfect sense. I hope the people dissect it the way that I just dissected it, even though you don't have to dissect what you said because it was straightforward. But some people, you know how it goes. Some things go over people's head that take longer to catch on. But
make sure
that
everybody go pick up the new single, go stream the new single "Swinging" with Bun B right now, because a lot of times I get on here and start talking, man, and again forget to feed my family and the ones that I love, because I do have such a vested interest in our people. So "Swinging," y'all make sure y'all get that. Well, Bun B is going crazy right now. Make sure you go to davidbanner.com and sign up for everything that's coming up good. All right, bro, go ahead.
You know what? And I was just gonna say, I ain't want to take up too much of your time. You really ended the podcast for me. But I will say now that Swinging, that's what I was gonna segue into real quick, but you just went ahead and you plugged it. Man, Swinging, that gives me that back then feel. That's that I want to ride slow through the city feel with the what is it, with the spokes hanging out on the rims feel. You know what I'm saying? Swerving. Like I'm feeling that was back then.
Well, let me tell you something, bro, that people forget. A lot of times people forget that just because you're conscious or just because you've grown up means that other parts of you are dead. That's one of the things that I did, man, is that I squashed the David Banner that y'all loved. I squashed the David Banner that changed my family's life. It doesn't mean that he has to, or that part of me has to control every aspect. But I think as Black people, we forget that stories are stories, whether they're true stories or false stories. Like, I don't care whether Ice Cube was out in the streets doing all the stuff that he said. Only thing that I want to know is that his genuine experience? And shoot, that's the place he from. You look at everything around him, it leads me to believe that it was, right? So with me, man, it's about telling great stories, bro, that lead somewhere. And it's sad to me sometimes when I hear, and I am grateful, and I know people mean it in the best way that they can. They be like, David Banner back, you know? And sometimes I wonder in my head, like, why would you want me back in that space? It's cool that I chose to be in that space, but like, you should want me to grow. And you should want to grow, so you should want to follow me too. I don't mind coming back, but I'm not going to stay in this space.
Yeah.
I came back so people can know that I've experienced the same thing, because with us getting older, sometimes children are so dissected that they forget that we come from those same spaces. So I don't think it's wrong with reminding people about those spaces, but to act like we want to stay in them spaces, no. I want to lead like Harriet Tubman. I want to come back and lead people out of those spaces so they won't have to stay in them as long as we did. God Box 2, y'all make sure it's coming. Y'all make sure y'all support David Banner, davidbanner.com, bro. And you did a good job, man.
I appreciate it, bro.